Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of By Accident or Design, a snackable series where we talk with leaders, industry, thought leaders, anyone who knows what they know, and they're going to share their gems with us. And today we have a very special guest. We have Andy, and Andy is well known, especially if you are in content marketing, or a CMO like Andy. So, Andy is a founder and CMO of co-founder and CMO of Orbit Media, and it is a 50-person agency. He has not only led this award-winning agency, but also written 500 plus posts sharing insights on how to do your content marketing, how to do your marketing funnel, how to do content the right way and not the way that most people say you should do it. And along with that, he's also launched a new book called The Content Chemistry, which is a handbook for content marketing. So, Andy, thank you so much. Yes, there we go. There's the book.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be back, and it's great to see you again, Victoria.
It's great to see you again, too. And, before we start, I want to say, I love the fact that you worked on a content marketing book because I feel like there's not enough books made by people who actually are in the trenches for content marketing. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But the first question I want to ask you is, what's a popular misconception that most people still have about you as a CMO, as a marketer, as a thought leader that kind of shocks you today?
Well, this company was founded as a web design firm, and we have built this business on organic inbound content marketing. But we are not a content marketing company. And because we put out so much stuff and people think of us as like a good source of information about these things, they sort of assume that that's what we do. But that's the nature of content, right? Just because you talk about it or write about it or teach it, that does not mean that you offer that actual service. So it's sort of funny. People do think that we do content marketing for our clients. In fact, we build and optimize websites.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I think I also kind of had that misconception too.
It's understandable. Forgiven. No problem.
Okay, so what's one crucial strategy or gem in marketing most people have been overlooking or they're missing in 2023?
Well, 10 years ago, you heard it all the time at conferences and on blog posts. Don't build on rented land. Own your content, put it on your domain. You can use social media as a source of traffic, but don't make all your stuff live on social media. That has changed. Now there is probably greater glory than ever before of building an audience on LinkedIn by posting on LinkedIn. And then for years now, of course, obviously, there's a huge upside to building an audience on YouTube and having your content live on YouTube. So I love website traffic. I'm an analytics guy. The goals of most of my content marketing are to attract people to the website and convert them into leads. But I have realized just how deep the well is on these platforms and how fast you can grow a very large audience. So I am now building on rented land, and it turns out that can be quite successful.
That's true. That's true. But there's also the side of a lot of people being afraid to be on rented land as well, as opposed to their own. So, what's one tip that you'd give to someone who is a little bit apprehensive because there's a little less control, or these rented lands or rented apartments have their own rules that you have to follow?
They do. And when you think about ownership, it's frustrating because let's say you have a LinkedIn newsletter and you have a lot of subscribers. You don't own those subscribers. They're not your subscribers actually any more than your rankings are yours, or your fans and followers are yours. They're not. Those are platforms. Those are for-profit companies. And so you're really making a deal. Like it's a kind of a Faustian bargain, you could say. But the people that are afraid of it really just do the calculation briefly and set aside your principles and overall goals. And remember, you're trying to build a brand, and you're trying to do so with the fewest calories burned by syndicating content on LinkedIn, not writing fresh content for it, but by publishing older articles.
Or
It's a very
repurpose?
repurposing. Yes, thank you. It's a low lift. So we have a LinkedIn newsletter we started years ago. It's weekly. Every other week is the new article that I publish because I write an article every 2 weeks. And every other week is me sharing an older article that I published that's still relevant and evergreen. After 15 years, I have 25,000 subscribers, email subscribers. They are precious to me. It's a victory. I'm proud. In 3 years, I have 170,000 LinkedIn subscribers. So the it is just don't underestimate the number of people in the world and how low the friction is on LinkedIn for someone to subscribe. It's one click. They don't have to touch their keyboard. So it's not expensive. It's not that time consuming. It's almost just like a syndication idea.
Nice.
And for me, YouTube is the same. I give lots of presentations. So I've repurposed presentations into YouTube videos. So these are, if you think of it as repurposing, and you can stop doing it if you ever get bored with it.
Yeah.
But it's not, it really isn't that risky or expensive. So it should absolutely be considered.
And YouTube has, a search engine on its own. It has like one of the longest shelf life compared to most social media platforms. So that's a good way.
Mm-hmm. Very valuable.
What's one of the worst piece of marketing advice someone's ever given you?
I'm not going to name names, but in the very beginning, like 15 years ago, I started content marketing around the same time this other person started content marketing. They're like a business advisor, and I was like doing, this marketing stuff to promote our business. And the tips were, try this, it saves time. Try this, it's a shortcut. Delegate this. Be as efficient as possible by doing as little as possible. And my strategy was always do the most you can do, put in the maximum effort, like make these things, do anything possible to improve the quality of this piece even a little bit. So we diverged. I think it would have been bad advice for me to take that on in the early days to, for example, use a ghostwriter. It will save you time. I'm not going to do that. Outsource this, use Fiverr for this and use, take shortcuts there and automate this. I have a very high touch, manual, in-depth, detailed, painstaking process to plan each visual, to write each paragraph, to research every keyword, and to everything that I write is a very carefully constructed how to, and my sincere best effort to make the best page on the internet for the topic. Because I believe that the results are on an exponential curve, and I'll do anything to move myself even a little bit farther over on that curve. Because, it's, especially if you're an SEO, you're trying to be one of the 10 best pages. How can you take shortcuts and be one of the 10 best pages on the internet?
That's true. And then are you really authentic if you have someone else who's sharing this detailed information, and then when someone comes to question you, you're like, So there's also that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and in other ways too. So let's say you want to build, building relationships and networking is valuable. Okay. Can I outsource making friends? You can't outsource friendship. Here I'm connected to you. Yeah. It's like you really, influencer marketing, the relationships, there are the best in the business. I'm proud to say if I email them, they'll respond and contribute to a piece that I'm working on. And I'm flattered that legitimate thought leaders and best-selling authors and, the real leaders in our category are willing to collaborate with me. That's because I gradually built relationships over time. And there's no way there's no shortcut for that.
That's true. There's no way to outsource friendship. That's very true. Okay. And you've talked about putting the data out there and kind of mapping out how you place that information. What's one way data visualization has really helped you to be like a great marketer?
Well, if I live in fear that my visitors will hit the back button. That's just a simple way to say what everyone sort of feels. And I think that the chance that people will reach for the back button is greater if there's a scroll depth within the piece for which there's no images at all. I'm trying to make sure there is something of visual interest at every scroll depth. So it might be the face of a person in a contributor quote. It might be a diagram. It might be a screenshot. It might be a video. So I'm improving engagement on my pages by making them highly visual. That gives me all kinds of other benefits. I can use those visuals in presentations. I can present those I do it all the time in meetings. Like, I made this article recently about 20 things to include on a homepage. As soon as that was done, I started bringing it to meetings and showing people how they can do better, a more engaging homepage.
Repurposing, working smart and not hard. Well, a little bit hard, but.
Well, working very hard, but then maximizing the value of the thing that you made. So I'm going to put in 10x the effort, but it's not just that I do so knowing that the effort is not for a single purpose.
Right.
That image is going to be used on a YouTube video, in a presentation at an event, in a sales meeting, in social media. in an email, in the creative of an email, and in many, many other articles. So it's really, it's about return on investment, and the investment might be high, but the calculation works out because the return is also very high.
It's also, listening to you sounding like never underestimate the power of repurposing at all. A lot of the times in marketing, we're all about like new shiny
Sure.
things. What's the best thing? But
Sure.
that you think like repurposing is like a secret superpower that every person, they don't even have to be a marketer, should have on their belt.
That is the book. 80% of this is blog posts that have been written and revised over many years, put together in this different format. You have to work hard to adapt them for that.
That's true.
Yeah, that's how. Andy, how do you find the time to write a book? You've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Like, aren't you busy? You got 400 clients and 50 employees. The book was a deliberate act of repurposing. So that is the best content marketers, I think, have already embraced this. Hopefully, already embraced it.
It's true. And going into that, talking about the book, the content chemistry, tell us about one chapter that you are most fond of writing and why.
Well, I love teaching search because it seems so mysterious to people. There's so much conflicting information. There's so many things that might be search ranking factors. So when you start to teach search, people are, they start with this kind of cloud of information that they've gathered over many years. And then when you really distill it down and explain, these are the 2 main search ranking factors, and here's how they apply exactly during the keyword research process. And now that we've chosen a keyword, now we're going to use that keyword. And there's so many light bulb moments for people when you teach search, how they understand how the algorithm works. This is really just information retrieval technology. Your page is like the data file that runs on that technology. It's sort of evaluated against its quality on these criteria. And if you can simplify something that people really think is very, very mysterious, and then show them example after example of how it works, and then help them create their own examples of how it works. I love teaching search. It's just such a joy to watch the lights in people's eyes once they realize that they can do this. It's not that. Also, the trick is to disabuse them of all these other things they've heard. There's a lot of misinformation. People think,
Oh yeah, people think it's this big monster. It's this complicated, like it's like coding in a way. It's not as it's not portrayed as easily as most people would like, because most experts kind of want it to seem like it's like, only for like an elite to understand, but it's not really that way.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of search engine blogs that have to come out with news. So they're always making something sound like it's a big thing,
Yeah.
when really search has not changed that much. I have articles that rank number 1 or 2 and have for 5 years. How's that possible? Because the algorithm doesn't really change. The search ranking algorithm doesn't really change that much over time. It really doesn't. The mix of things in search results changes a lot. And that's a problem for us all, because now there's like maps, and people also ask box, and a knowledge panel, and these video
News
carousels.
panel.
News, yeah, that is the big change in SEO. It's not about how high you rank. It's about how much stuff Google put above you for their properties. But I think that an example, repurposing. I've done hundreds of diagrams.
I mean, I want to lean into more. I would like to ask, like, everyone eventually, I've always seen your post on LinkedIn. What made you, or what gave you that final push to be like, okay, this needs to be a book? What did you see people were like missing or overlooking that you decided, okay, this is definitely gonna not only fill the gap, but help you lay the foundation to go up?
Well, there was a blog post that I wrote for someone else. I went through an era of guest blogging, which helped a lot, and I think I still get benefits from.
As
And
we
so
all do.
yeah. Like in 3 years, I wrote around 100 guest posts. And one of them I wrote for Jay Bear on his website at the time, Convince and Convert. And it was called Nice Blogs Finish Last. And I made the case that with a bit more forethought, you can blog into a book. Simply make an outline of everything that you know about a topic, and then look for gaps in that, and then complete the outline by filling in those gaps with articles. And the outline becomes a table of contents, and the articles become the chapters. And then you have it probably 60 or 70% done. Now you got to sit down and spend 80 hours to really form it into a book, which is, of course, the job. But that was me proving that model of, nice blogs finish last and forethought will rule the day. And if I can plan ahead, I'll get far greater value. And then once the book was done, it's sort of amazing how content marketing at a certain level actually generates revenue.
Right.
Like people pay to go to conferences. We've had a conference, pause during COVID, but we had a conference every year for 9 years. People buy books. So this might sound, I don't want this to just come off the wrong way, but we actually don't pay to do marketing. Marketing breaks even for us. I've never bought an ad. I spend no dollars out of pocket. I have a marketing director, Amanda, and of course there's an HR cost for that. And I spend a lot of time myself. I spend an hour and a half every morning writing. I'm very busy, but it's not as if there's a strange tipping point where there are some certain types of assets and formats, specifically books and conferences, where, in phase 9 of a mature content program, you actually start to generate revenue.
And is it that was always the case, or was it something that you built up to, or you knew like, this is what I want, and you took the years to just build up to that marker?
Well, this is a scrappy little company with no investors or debt. So we had to be, and many content marketing programs start that way, right? There's just no budget. So
Right.
How do you, I want to keep in touch with 500 people over many years without spending money. I'll write an article and send them an email, and, that grows over time. So I don't know that it's possible for everyone, or not even has to be a goal. That's not a business goal per se, is to break even on your marketing budget. But the point is to grow your business and keep in touch with the right people over time, and attract and convert people who are your ideal client profile prospects. But the book works very well in that way. If someone contacts us that we think might be a great fit, I have a pile of envelopes right here and a pile of books right here. They're next to me. And it's minutes later that book is in the mail for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good onboarding process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's also your way of kind of saying like, we're not trying to gatekeep information from you. We're trying to also educate you along the way so that you're running beside us.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 last questions for you.
Okay.
One is, what's an insult you received as a professional that you are proud of today?
My roommate in 1999 told me it was too late to start a web design company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like, that'll never work. Thought it was too late.
Okay. Wow. Now that you say it, that does sound like a really good.
And it's a reminder, we are still just waking up in the morning. This is breakfast. We are early. We're early for a lot of categories on the internet. There are still yet huge, format and audience combinations for which there's big
Or
white
even
space.
jobs. Like
Jobs,
social
yeah,
media marketing wasn't a job until 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
yeah,
there's so much more.
I have a friend who does podcasts for clients, and he decided he wanted to do podcasts for himself, and just looked at the market and said, where aren't there podcasts yet? And I think one of the ones he chose, I'm trying to remember, it was like maritime logistics. Launched what soon became the biggest maritime logistics podcast.
That makes sense.
Just no one had done it yet. There's lots of blue ocean, lots and lots of blue ocean for those that look.
It's never too late. And my last question would be, what's the happiest accident you've ever made that led you to where you are now?
Great question. I was in college, so I'm Gen X. I'm old. College was early 90s. I was going to be a teacher. I majored in Mandarin, foreign language major, and didn't know what to do with that. So I thought I'll just get trained to teach. So I got certified to teach secondary ed for Mandarin in the 90s. Decided not to do that because I wanted to see what was happening in business, and the internet was getting big, and it was just something I thought I would maybe go back to that later. And then, as it turned out, the full circle story is that I sort of am now a teacher. What are we doing? Curriculum development. What is a presentation? It's a class. There's so much of what we do that is actually just teaching. The best content marketers are teachers. Content marketing is a test of generosity. The people that give away the most helpful, useful advice win the most loyalty and love. I am still very much working hard every day to be the best teacher that I can be. I actually do still teach in classrooms. I teach at Northwestern and a school in Spain every year.
Oh, nice.
But that is the happiest accident, is that the world evolved in a way where marketing turned out to have a lot to do with teaching, which was my first love and my current love.
Oh, wow, that's so nice. What about Mandarin? Are you still good with Mandarin or no?
I think it had stabilized for a long time, but I think it's now declining again. I mean, it's the year of the rabbit. I was listening to, I can have a conversation. I can order food and buy train tickets and, travel around, but there's almost none of this conversation that I could have had in Mandarin, Victoria. I'm sorry. I lack all the specialized vocabulary to do almost anything in business.
You know way more than me, so no worries. So now we're getting close to wrapping up. I want to say, where can our audience find you if they want to learn more from you, if they want to learn where to get your book, if they want to learn more about Orbit Media, where can they find you guys?
Well, the article that I write every 2 weeks, if you want to get the latest, it's at orbitmedia.com. And that's the only email we send. We won't send any other email. You'll get one email from me every 2 weeks if you subscribe. That's my blog. LinkedIn is my best social media network. So if you go to LinkedIn, you can skip the follow button and go to more and connect. I have it set to follow right now because there's a limit to connections. And if I go too close, I don't know what to do. But anyone watching this, of course, please connect with me. And then the book is, I think, Amazon or anywhere you can find books. It's just for sale where books are. Content Chemistry, 6th edition. Make sure to get the new one.
6th edition. All right. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. And thank you for everything that you shared. I mean, it was a lot of things I've learned for the first time as well, and just seeing things from different perspective. And I'm also going to check out that book as well on my Amazon list. Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you, Victoria. This was great.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you on our next episode of By Accident or Design.